I am Nic Rohloff. Welcome into the Heat Report by Chat Sports. And on today's show, I have a little fun exercise that I wanted to partake in, and it is power ranking the top Heat trade targets. We've talked a lot about people Miami could go out and acquire via trade this offseason. In today's show, I want to rank them in the order I would do them in and who I'd like to add to this Heat roster. But before we get into my top 5 power ranking trade targets, I want to get better than we were last week. In the top liked video on a show we did last week was 120. Let's get better. 125 is the floor that we need to get on today's show. Hit that thumbs up icon. Let's show the bosses and everyone here at Chat Sports what Heat Nation is made of. All right, number 1 should be absolutely no surprise. It's the person we've talked the most about. That is Donovan Mitchell, the guard from the Cleveland Cavaliers, who a lot of that is up in the air. Mitchell will always be my number 1 trade option for Miami because he fits both timelines for the Heat. He can be that perfect third addition next to Jimmy and Bam, assuming you trade a Jovic, Jaquez, Hero, and draft capital package to Cleveland for D. Mitch, but he also fits the long term with Miami, being the dynamic duo partner of Bam Adebayo. The two close friends who train together a lot in the offseason in Miami could be the future for the Heat, but also help get the Heat that elusive 4th NBA championship as a franchise with Jimmy Butler before he retires or leaves Miami in a couple seasons. Mitchell will always be the number 1 guy I want Pat Riley to go trade for. And why wouldn't we want him to be that number 1 guy when he's giving you this on a nightly basis? Sure, he only played in 55 games a year ago, but when he's on the court, he is the most dynamic 3-level scorer almost at every single period and juncture of the game. He can score at the rim at a high rate. He can get to the mid-range when the opposing big men are playing drop coverage. And if you are playing drop coverage and he's feeling good, he has no issue one dribble off of a screen into a 3-point pull-up, but he also has the speed and dynamic ability to take sidestep and step-back threes. He gave the Celtics in those 3 games before he left the series with injury 30-plus points on 60% true shooting. This is one of the best scorers in the regular season. In the postseason, it doesn't matter. And just think about what he did as well when he played the Orlando Magic in Games 6 and 7. He went for 40 in 40 in back-to-back games in the end of that series. He is a phenomenal scorer and would be the great addition that the Heat have been looking for in this backcourt. But the question with Mitchell is, will he extend? Because that is the biggest question in the entire NBA this offseason. The landscape of the National Basketball Association could change depending on his decision. Because if he extends with Cleveland, well, Darius Garland might be gone. If he doesn't extend with Cleveland, he might get traded to a different team. And it would probably be a trade for Mitchell this offseason from Miami or any other team because he'd likely be gone prior to hitting free agency the following year. And the latest reports surrounding Cleveland come from Brian Windhorst. It actually has nothing to do with Donovan Mitchell, but their head coaching search. He said, Windhorst said, James Borrego and Kenny Atkinson will visit Cleveland this week as finalists for the Cavaliers head coaching opening. Gotta be honest, I think this is good news for Miami and good news for the rest of the NBA. Maybe I'm wrong because there's also reports out there that Mitchell has a say in the head coaching search, but I'm not sure Donovan Mitchell will be behind a James Borrego and Kenny Atkinson head coaching search. To me, if he got like Johnny Bryant or something like that from New York, that would be much more of a Donovan Mitchell type guy. But Atkinson has had his chance in the league. James Borrego has had his chance. I'm not sold on those 2 guys being excellent head coaches, and they're certainly not better than J.B. Bickerstaff in my opinion. Sure, it's a change of scenery for Mitchell with the new head coach in Cleveland, but I don't think any of those 2 guys can be better than Bickerstaff was. So to me, that doesn't really give me confidence if I'm a Cavs fan that Mitchell is going to like that head coaching signing and he's going to stay long term. But you guys get the votes down below and predict it for me in the comments section. Will Donovan Mitchell stay with Cleveland? If you believe he will stay, type S. If you think he leaves and ends up getting dealt, type out. Number 2 on my list. Yes, we've had a little bit of a change at the top of my trade target rankings. Kyle Kuzma, the forward for Washington. I've grown on the possibility of the Miami Heat trading for Kyle Kuzma, as his contract is just so team-friendly. He has improved year after year as a Wizard, as a Laker, and he's got excellent size to pair alongside Jimmy and Bam. He could slide into that power forward position quite well for Miami. He's dang near the same size as Bam. A little bit thinner, obviously, but the height and length is there. He can shoot the three ball. He can score off the catch, off the drive. To me, this is a lateral move for Miami to where you don't give up a lot of young pieces. You keep your young core in Jaquez and Jovic, but deal hero and maybe small draft capital to get Kuzma, shake up the roster, maybe have a better fit in that front court, keep Rozier in the back court, and have a four-man lineup that can score at all three levels. And Kuzma has been able to showcase that three-level scoring over his last 4 seasons. When he was in his last season with Los Angeles, he really just could not get his feet under him, and he never really got going once LeBron James joined the Los Angeles Lakers. Kind of can say the same about Brandon Ingram and Lonzo Ball as well before those two ended up going to New Orleans. But when Kuzma hit the floor running in Washington, he really upped his scoring, and now some of that could be off volume, but he's overall an efficient player, shooting 45, 45, and 46% from the field the last 3 years, and considering how many shots he takes a game, that number is actually pretty solid. The three-point efficiency could get better, but he'd likely get more open looks and easier looks in Miami, not having to create for himself as much as he did in Washington. And I mentioned the contract just a second ago. It is maybe the most team-friendly contract for a player of his caliber in the entire NBA. Jalen Brunson's contract can be up there, but Kuzma getting paid $23.5 and then it decreasing by $2 million per year over the next 2 seasons is very advantageous. And that's kind of why I like Kuzma and the possible addition for the Miami Heat. The contract is extremely friendly. Like, if you extend Jimmy Butler, you can add Kuzma and have no issue, because if you did deal Tyler Hero for Kuzma, which is probably what it costs. I think it would only cost Hero and a little bit of draft capital to acquire Kyle from the Washington Wizards, and you can extend Jimmy and save money because Hero's getting paid $29, $30 million a year. Kuzma's only getting paid $24, $22, and $19. Like, you save $8 million, $9 million a season, get someone who could give you the same type of value and better defense in the front court. To me, Kuzma would be a great lateral move for Miami, and what's the reason why he's number 2 on my list? Number 3 is Lauri Markkanen, the forward from Utah. This one's a little bit of a pipe dream, but there is no doubt about what he could bring to this Heat roster. He is one of the most dynamic scorers in the entire NBA, putting up 23 a game, 8 rebounds to go alongside it. But the thing that's so impressive about Markkanen is how he's able to score from beyond the arc as well as inside the arc. And he is one of the most efficient three-point shooters in the entire NBA. From the left corner, last season, by the way, he shot 37.8%, a little bit below league average. But when he's at the top of the key, or above the break is what we call it, he is elite. He is 5% better left wing than league average on the left wing. Top of the key, he's almost 6% better. From the right wing, he's a full 1% better. And he's a good corner shooter, too, as well, shooting 46.7% from the right corner, 8% better than league average. He can space the floor. He can take you to the rack. The only thing that I'd like to see him improve on is a little bit more post work, but if you're playing alongside Bam, he doesn't really need to do that. Lauri Markkanen is the perfect fit in between Jimmy and Bam. He is what Kyle Kuzma could be, but on steroids, if you will. The reason why I have Markkanen behind Kyle Kuzma in my trade power rankings list, though, is because what it would cost. It would equal the entire farm. You'd have to send Hero. You'd have to send Jovic. You'd have to send Jaquez. You'd have to send the 2 first-round picks you can send at pick 15 and in 2030. Like, you might think it's too much, but with someone who is as young as Lauri Markkanen and how he is ascending in the NBA, the Jazz would want a king's ransom for him, and that's why he falls to number 3 on my list. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel because we are going to have daily coverage of the Miami Heat, whether it be trade rumors, trade news, draft news, rumors, we'll have it all. So subscribe now and don't miss a thing this offseason. All right, number 4 is Trae Young, the guard from the Atlanta Hawks, who, if you watched yesterday's video, we talked in depth about potentially trading for Mr. Young. And a lot of you in the comment section on yesterday's video mentioned how you prefer DeJounte Murray because of his defense. Trae doesn't play any defense. He wouldn't be a good fit in Miami. I agree. I prefer DeJounte Murray if the Heat were to trade for one of the two Atlanta Hawks guards. But you also can't just say that, like, you'd rather have DeJounte Murray because you have to take into consideration, well, are they going to trade him? Probably not. Like, if I have any forecast of what the Hawks are going to do, to me, they're blowing up the backcourt of Trae and DeJounte Murray. That feels a foregone conclusion. But I believe they will build around DeJounte Murray rather than Trae Young because of the same reasons why we like DeJounte Murray better than Trae Young. So could you get Young on the cheap? And it's not like Trae Young is some scrub. Like, this is one of the most dynamic offensive players in the entire NBA. Like, he averages 25 a game over the last 4 seasons while also dishing out damn near 10 assists a night. The only thing that is a little bit sketchy about Young is his defense and his overall efficiency, but getting to play alongside Bam and Jimmy, his volume and usage rate would probably take a little bit of a dip, which would only allow him to become more of an efficient player. The physicality of the NBA increasing does make me skeptical of Trae Young's long-term future, but you bring him in as a third option to do the offensive work for the most part in the regular season, let Jimmy kind of do his thing, coast, and then when it comes playoff time, Butler shows up, Trae kind of reverses that third option offensively. I think it's a match made in heaven that could really get some wins and be a top team in the Eastern Conference. One more trade target that I am going to rank, but who is your number one Heat trade target? Some people say Markkanen, some people say Donovan Mitchell. Maybe I swayed your opinion and Kyle Kuzma is up there for you, but give me a name down below. I do want to remind people to like the video as we do have one more trade target to get to. We're trying to get better than last week. 125 is the goal today, so if you haven't already, hit that thumbs up icon. All right, last player we're going to talk about, number 5 on my list, is Brandon Ingram, the forward from the New Orleans Pelicans. And even though he cracked my top 5, I got to be honest, I'm kind of out on Brandon Ingram. I think he's a fine basketball player, but I'd borderline almost rather run it back than trade for BI. Why? I'm a little bit skeptical of his fit in Miami because, like I've said with some other guys in the past, Brandon Ingram likes to work a lot in the mid-range, 15, 18 feet in from the basket. He doesn't take that many three-pointers because he's not that efficient at doing so. BI would kind of maybe have too much of a crowd. Bam likes to work in the mid-range. Jimmy likes to do it. Like, if none of these guys can really become elite three-point shooters that scare defenses due to their efficiency and volume combined, then to me, the defenses are just going to be able to pack in at the elbow and paint and just say, yeah, we're not going to allow you to get open mid-range shots, and then the spacing on the team will be horrific. I just also question the motor of Brandon Ingram at times as well. Feels like he takes plays off defensively. I just don't know if he's the best fit for the Miami Heat, which is why I'm kind of out on Ingram, and he's my 5th trade target. That'll do it for today's video. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel as we break down more news and rumors surrounding your Miami Heat. We'll have another video tomorrow because we have a video every single day, so hit that sub button.